Hello, and welcome to Off the Shelf Reviews.
I want to be your sledgehammer.
And I'm Gary. And today we're going to review and discuss Sybil, which came out in 1976 from director Daniel Petrie. Iain, why don't you give us the synopsis for Sybil?
Well, the story follows Sally Field, who plays Sybil. She appears to have unearthed some dark memories from her past, which have brought out multiple personalities in her persona. She goes to see a Dr. Wilbur, played by Joanne Woodward, who attempts to find out what has caused these personas to appear. I'll just go and say, man, I was fucking shocked by this film. At first I was shocked because somebody had said about reviewing it and I realised it was 3 hours and 15 minutes long. And you guys seem to be doing that a lot recently, of throwing long films at us, which I don't mind.
There is a shorter version of this film, but I believe you miss out so much material that it kind of, it's taking a huge chunk out of the film.
Yeah, but I mean, it's more of a TV movie.
Oh, it absolutely is. It's a TV miniseries split into 2 episodes.
Split into 2, based on the true story of a woman who had multiple personalities at the time. And I thought, yeah, I'll sit down and watch it. Love these types of films. It got dark. And I've watched a lot of horror movies, but by the end of this one, I'm like, this goes up there with some horror films.
How could you embarrass me in front of them all that way? Get away. Please, get away. I will not get away. I will stand here till you explain yourself.
Yeah, some of the stuff that happens in this film is truly frightening, especially when you're told right at the beginning that this is a true story. And all of this happened really before I was born. So I wasn't really aware of the phenomenon that was the release of the book, Sybil. It also comes at a time in movies when we were getting true story horror movies. We would soon have The Exorcist, the Amityville Horror, and possession type films.
Yeah.
And a lot of this film is like, it's like demonic possession, it's not Christian.
Yeah.
It's all of those things. And it's also in a woman. Especially, at the late 60s, early 70s, there was a bit of a cultural revolution going on where women were starting to have more say, more power, in the workplace and the home and everything else. And so, having this woman having what seems to be like she's possessed by 16 different personalities, you can easily see that this is a horror movie.
Yeah. Yeah, but Sally Field, as soon as I saw Sally Field's name on it, I was just like, I'm comfortable, actually.
She's the mum in Mrs. Doubtfire.
Yeah.
She's the mum to Forrest Gump.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, well, at the same time, she was in Smokey and the Bandit. We're just going to throw that out there.
Yeah.
But this is a really accomplished actress. She's really good at the characters that she portrays. And I saw her on this, and obviously knowing the kind of material that we were going to go through, I'm like, this will be interesting to see how she carries it off. And oh my God, even though it's the same actress, when she becomes the different personas, she becomes a completely different person. Her voice will change, her stance will change. She'll go from this meek little person to becoming, speaking French and standing up with really nice hair and quite confident. One minute she's afraid of hands, the next minute she's all touchy and feely. And you're just like, that's amazing acting just to see on screen. I know a lot of people would say, well, yeah, what's it like against James McAvoy in Split? Well, maybe James McAvoy watched this and decided that's how he was going to construct some of his characters as well.
It is truly frightening to see someone at the drop of a hat just immediately become somebody else. Now, that is something that actors should be, that should be their bread and butter to be able to do that.
Yeah.
But to do it, there's quite a few sequences in this film where it's done in one take.
Yes.
And it's just like, wow, it's like a stage performance where the camera's been unobtrusive and just let the actors do their job.
Yes.
And Sally Field, I think she won an Emmy for her performance in this. It's just spellbinding. She's riveting to watch because, it feels spontaneous and uncontrollable.
I can tell you. I'm not supposed to tell you. I can tell you.
the opening of the film eases you in gently, but at the same time, there's a dark undertone. You know, we see Sybil in the park. She's a substitute teacher, and she's looking after a bunch of kids who are doing drawings. And she seems really happy. You know, she's comfortable in this little area, but you can hear this kind of rusty, eeky, squeaky metal noise in the background, and she sees a grandmother, I'm assuming, pushing her daughter on the swing. You get flashes of what appears to be somebody pulling something on a rope pulley, and it appears to be a small child, and it's flashing back to Sybil, and she's trying to cope with these memories appearing, and you're like, what's going on? And I love how this opening kind of 15, 20, 25 minutes, I don't know how long it was, between her first initial reaction to this memory to her meeting Dr. Wilbur, her phasing out.
Yeah, the blackouts.
The blackouts. You know, one minute she's there walking happily with the children, she sees and hears something, the next minute she stood in the park pond. And she has no idea how she got there, but she remembers the last couple minutes, so she tries to just ignore it. She goes home and she sees her neighbours, and there's loads of piano music playing, and that starts to push her over the edge. You know, that makes her want to run upstairs and just hide in her room. And I absolutely loved that sequence where she was sat in the doctor's office and she's looking down that little tunnel vision, and she's describing what she sees to the doctor, and she's saying about the hands and the ring and the colour of the doctor's hair. And then the doctor says, "Do you enjoy talking like a little girl?" And Sybil just snaps right back.
Is it fun talking like a little girl, Miss Dorset?
What?
What just happened? Jet lag?
So Sybil's in the hospital because she cut her hand breaking a glass window.
Yeah.
And so she's like, look, my hand's better, I'm fine. What's with the neurological examination here? And the doctor's like, well, it seemed like you were a little bit confused when you came around in the hospital. So I'm just here just to follow up a few questions and find out how you're doing. And that's when she realizes that there's something more going on with Sybil. And so she arranges for her to have a further meeting with her.
Yeah.
It turns out that Dr. Wilbur is kind of... she's a bit of a fledgling in the field of dissociative identity disorder.
Yeah.
And she's kind of looking for a case.
Yeah,
and
to make her name.
To make her name. And so it just so happens that Sybil might be that patient that she needs.
Yeah.
And so within the first meeting with Sybil, she soon finds out that there seems to be quite a few different identities behind Sybil. The rest of the film is then an exploration of, I think, the 16 other personalities that are in there.
Yeah, I love the fact that Sybil explains to you early on that she's been dealing with this all of her life. And it's only up at this point in her life that they're actually becoming troublesome. She says to you about how at one point she lost 2 years of her life. You know, she blacked out at one point, and when she woke up again, 2 years ago, and she was looking at a completely different person. And I started to get fearful at this point because my mind started to race and imagine the different scenarios she could end up in or has ended up in. Like, for example, imagine, I couldn't help but imagine if Sybil woke up one day and she had a daughter or a child, but she can't remember how she got that child because it was one of her different personas who actually took control and create this life. You know, we start to hear about Peggy, who is a 9-year-old persona who has pretty much all the same fears as the child Sybil, but at the same time is somebody completely different.
I believe Peggy is the one filled with rage, the angry one.
Yeah. You have Vicky, the French-speaking one. Now, she's a completely different identity who has this whole family over in Paris and where she grew up and she learned French, and you know she's quite rich and knows fashion.
She's also confident and outgoing and approachable, and you know she can easily get Sybil where she needs to be.
Yeah. You have Marcy, who is Sybil's suicidal side.
It's like her depression and anxiety and fears all went into that one.
Yeah, and Marcy just, well, if she takes control, she just always attempts to kill Sybil because, I don't know, does she blame Sybil for everything that she went through, even though Sybil She doesn't real. The personas all realise they're all part of Sybil,
Well,
but Sybil
yeah.
doesn't really acknowledge them
Them,
as
that's right.
part of her. Because it's quite shocking as well, because she also has boy personas in there.
There's two boys, yeah.
Yeah, and the boys have actually, in Sybil's life, in her apartment, have constructed a secret shelf so that when, I think it's Peggy is the painter, when Sybil, under one of the personas, paints at midnight, they can hide the pictures on the top shelf so that Sybil can't see them and get
She
upset.
doesn't even know they're there.
You know, it's all of this inner working is in this little TV 3-hour movie from 1976, and it was amazing.
Yeah. Now, I like the fact that a lot of the film takes place in the Dr. Wilbur's office,
Oh,
essentially,
yeah.
and it is just conversation pieces. It's just her
Yeah, the playoff of the two of
uncovering
them.
the layers of all of the personalities and figuring out what makes each one tick, and realizing that each one of the personalities it's like different core emotions taken away from Sybil, which has left Sybil this husk,
Yeah.
essentially, while each one of these personalities are there. And it would appear that each one of those personalities are protecting Sybil by taking over the host, if you will, in order to make sure she doesn't come to any harm or...
Yeah, because anything in real life that causes the memories to surface causes Sybil pain and fear. And the personas immediately will take over that so that she can carry on normal and not have a complete mental break when she starts remembering the horrific fucking things she went through as a child. But the brilliant thing I found out about this movie was you knew something harmful had happened to Sybil as a small child. But every time you started to approach it, it was like a red herring would come along. Like there was that sequence where she's starting to remember disinfectant and she remembers her mother taking her away from her grandmother across the road to a different house. And I'm fucking shitting it at this point because this woman's got multiple personalities. So I'm thinking whatever's behind that door broke her badly. She goes in there, her father picks her up and starts carrying her up the stairs. And I'm thinking, oh my God, what the fuck are they going to do to this little 9-year-old girl to make her mind break? And they take her into the doctor's little surgery and they have to perform a tonsillectomy, take her tonsils out on her. And I'm like, oh,
That's
really?
not too bad.
I
I guess it's pretty scary for a child, but...
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. But there was also something about Sybil's mother that put me off. And as the film would go on and we start to see different memories come back of the different situations Sybil was put in with her mother, that's when the horror really starts to kick in.
It sort of culminates around Christmas. Sybil has been building up this relationship with her neighbour from across the street where they're on the same level, they can see each other through their windows and they kind of have this back and forth, I see you, you see me. But Sybil's like really shy, doesn't really want to do anything, so somebody else takes over the host.
Shannon takes over.
And pursues this relationship with Richard. And, it's they've built up this relationship, it's kind of cute. And they've decided that they're going to share Christmas Day.
Yeah.
Sybil's already had quite a few therapy sessions. All of the different personalities have presented themselves to Dr. Wilbur. And they're just like, we're going to give this a go.
Yeah.
But the flashbacks and the horror memories from her childhood really come to the forefront now. And we're shown a lot more of these flashbacks of this really abusive mother. We're seeing it right from the beginning when she slaps her daughter around, kicks her. There's a simple moment when the mother walks into the kitchen and they have that swinging door.
Oh,
and she just swings the door in her daughter's face. And you're just like... And she's cackling.
Yeah.
She's funny to her.
Lettuce head, go to bed. Your nose is red. Your name is Fred. I'll kill your dad.
Yeah, the woman playing the mother was an amazing actress because... Before it was even diagnosed to me, I knew that there was something mentally wrong with the mother because her persona would quickly change. One minute she's being a loving mother, the next minute she's pushing her daughter down the stairs, And I sat there and I reflected and I'm thinking, Jesus Christ, I might shout at my son for not tidying his bedroom. At least I'm not that fucking bad.
But when she hoists her daughter up on the pulley system,
Oh.
blindfolded, and
Yeah.
then after she unhooks her, she puts her in a box and locks it
Yeah.
and leaves her in there.
Leaves her in there. It was also amazing with the father
Yes.
situations. You know, Sybil has gone to her dad to confront him about her episodes that she has and how she wants to get them treated by the doctor. And her father takes this massive religious standpoint. Nope, come home. We will basically just lock you in a room and take care of you for the rest of your life because, well, it's our view. And I'm like, you're hiding something. You are definitely hiding something because you are not thinking of your child's welfare. You are actually trying to protect yourself and maybe something you did or did not do. And as the film would progress, especially when Dr. Wilbur confronts the father of the different injuries that Sybil had received as a child, the dad is so defensive of the mum. But then at the same time, he can't... You see him messing with his hands. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, that's a nervous twitch he's got there. Especially the memories, because he loves his daughter, but then being in that situation where you come home and your daughter's got a broken arm. Oh, how did that happen? Oh, she just fell down the stairs. I wouldn't fucking buy that for a second.
Well, it was like the broken larynx, you know. It was
Yeah.
like, oh, she ran into the washing line, which is, you know, up here somewhere.
Yeah, that's not even possible.
It seems to me it would take an awful lot of determination for a little 4-year-old to get her throat up, you know, high enough to break her larynx.
I got emotional as fuck with the whole Richard stuff.
Yeah. I mean, you had those great moments when he's like, look, I'm a performer, a street performer. It's New York. You know, come with me. I'm going to street perform outside this venue. It'll be great. And so Sybil's there. He's performing with his friend. And then all of a sudden Sybil has more flashbacks.
Yeah.
And she runs away. She runs into a subway toilet.
Yeah.
Richard, you know, packs her, runs off, follows her, finds her. And when Sybil comes back out, she's like, who are you? You know, what am I doing here? Like, why you followed me here?
Yeah.
And it's so weird. But, you know, you can understand that Richard, he likes Sybil and he understands that there is something wrong with her, but he's not like, you're a psycho, you know, and is done with her. He actually tries to help her.
Yeah, I felt that there was something wrong with Richard as well. There was a bit on the train where he talks about his ex-wife, and it's the part where he goes, beep beep, vroom vroom went the truck, and then he talks about how his wife had died, and I'm like, is he slightly unhinged as well? Because it must be. He says his wife was quite young. He's got a young son. He's living in fucking New York City in the 70s. He's got a lot to deal with. You know, I was hoping that they'd kind of find a bridge there. But it culminates to, like we said, just after Christmas, where Richard and Sybil are kind of getting close to the point where it looks like they might have intercourse. And during the night, Sybil has a mental break, and Richard finds her on the very top shelf of her bookshelves in her bedroom. And then Marcy takes over and attempts to kill Sybil. So Richard, after calling Dr. Wilbur and telling him that there's this issue, has to confront Marcy and try to calm her down. And once Dr. Wilbur turns up, I got quite tearful when Sybil gets injected with a sedative. And she becomes Sybil again. And Sybil basically explains to Dr. Wilbur that she really loves Richard, but she doesn't think she should see him until she's better. And Richard is stood at the door, you know, and he's crying because he likes her as well, and he would love to stay, but in a way he's got to protect his own son because... Well, how do you in the 70s? How did you deal with somebody with mental issues? Mm-hmm. You know, it was really, really good. These little characters from the outside made all the stuff that you saw with Sybil and the Doctor more believable. So you enjoyed more the Doctor-patient moments you went through, especially when all the different personas started to come out. Because after a while, you started to recognise them.
Yes, yeah. There was a great sequence early on in the film when Dr. Wilbur's beginning the case essentially, and she has photographs of the different personalities, and I'm like, you know, it's so cool that you can literally go from one photograph to the other and see the different personalities in those still images.
Yeah.
It's like, it's very well presented in film form as well.
Yeah.
There's also a particular sequence that stands out, and that's Sybil's other nightmares, where she finds a kitten, then finds a box of kittens, and then and then there's a cat with a severed head that's chasing her.
Yeah,
basically the mother cat.
Yeah,
and so you basically have repressed memories formulating into these nightmares, and then there's an actual live action version of this nightmare sequence other than just in the crayon drawings. And it's very memorable. I was half expecting to see the cat head floating behind her.
Yeah,
I was like, but thankfully they didn't do that. It was just a quick shot of this. I don't know. This was disturbing cat head.
Yeah. But it worked. The imagery worked with the music, worked with the situation that you were in, So at that point, even though you're looking at this prosthetic head, like, oh, what the fuck is that? You'd already gone through like almost 2 hours, and so you were along the ride with Sybil, and seeing this nightmare in full scared you.
Oh yeah. So there is a sequence that caught me off guard. I mean, I kind of anticipated this coming,
right.
But when it's actually revealed to you in the film, you kind of, the shock, the repulsed horror, I mean, I teared up. It was just like, I could not imagine it. It's horrific. And it's when Dr. Wilbur goes to Sybil's hometown.
Yes.
And goes to see her doctor. And the doctor is still alive. And he's like, yeah, I remember Sybil. She was, into all sorts and got into trouble. And I remember treating the everyday bumps and bruises.
Yeah, yeah.
He's like, let me find the file for you. Oh, look, I still have it. There you go. And that's when the doctor explains that that Dr. Wilbur's probably heard a lot of confessions in her job.
Yeah.
And now he's about to reveal the mother of all confessions, something that he has lived with this entire life.
Yeah.
Is the extensive damage done to Sybil's reproductive system.
If you did a gynecological on her right now, I'd wager you'd see what I saw. Scarification of the inner wall, destruction of certain tissues. Don't believe she can ever become a mother.
As a child.
I just lost it. I paused the film, walked out, I was just like,
yeah.
And this is something that's going on every day in the real world.
Yes.
I mean, it's in the news every year, every month. It was only a little while ago that somewhere in America there was like 13 children
handcuffed and chained to
beds and stuff. And it's like, this isn't new news. This happens all the time, and it's disgusting. It's like, how does this happen? But it does.
Yeah, this isn't a film from the 70s. We're in fucking 2018 and it's still going on. I mean, it's fucking scary. But
so yeah, child abuse, child molestation, and child rape. We've dealt with some of these issues in films in the past.
Yeah, but that doctor's performance, where he talks about all the different ailments, and when he lists them off to Dr. Wilbur, she's like, are those normal childhood ailments? And, the realization, or not the realization, but the firm belief in his mind that he was doing his best for the child, but he knew sending her back to her mother was always a bad idea, but they didn't have the things in place that we have nowadays.
He kind of took the Sybil's mother at one point, and she was taken to a psychiatric hospital, and she was just like, those quacks were more crazy than me, so who are you going to listen to? So...
Fucking... Yeah. Because, like I said, we've been seeing all the building up flashbacks, like I said, the tonsillitis one was a bit of a red herring, The Christmas one, I really felt bad for the grandmother at that point, because it was just like, just leave the fucking child with the grandmother, and the grandmother's getting grief from Sybil's mum, and then she's being taken down the stairs, she's being kicked and punched. You're hearing from the doctor about the intrusive surgeries inside her area, and then finally Dr. Wilbur comes across the green kitchen and comes across the green box in which Sybil had been held in that we'd seen previous in the film. And so she takes a piece of the wood and shows it to Sybil to say, look, you said you scribbled on the wall in a purple crayon. This is the piece of wood. And Sybil starts to Sybil and the rest of the personas start to realise, yes, this is true.
It's at this point that Sybil has turned up to Dr. Wilbur and gone, ha, none of this is real. It's fake. I made the whole thing up. I don't have multiple personality disorders. Hey, you want me to go over here and look at this figurine and count to 5?
That was even fucking worse.
Oh, because I was like, she's being such a bitch.
What happened in the green kitchen?
Well, that's my cue to turn into Peggy, right? Dr. Wilbur, there is no Peggy to turn into.
Do you mind if I test that?
Hypnosis? Be my guest.
It's like...
But she was being so smart, because then I couldn't actually honestly believe her then if she was these multiple personalities, or if she'd been playing us this whole time.
Which is why Dr. Wilbur had to go to her hometown to find records and proof, and obviously finding the purple crayon inside the box is enough for her to turn back to Sybil and go, look, this did happen. You have suppressed the memory of what happened. The memory of what happened is what's caused your personality to shatter into all of these different ones. And if you can face the truth of what happened to you, theory is all of your personalities will start to heal and you'll become one entity again.
Yeah. Oh my God. Like I said at the beginning of this, I've seen some scary fucking horror movies, and the flashback memories were periodically getting worse and worse. Dr. Wilbur takes Sybil and the multiple personalities she's fucking carrying out to a park. And I think the focus was on the colour green because of the green kitchen. You know, take her out to the park, give her the purple crayon, give her these things to kind of force this memory out. And it turns out that the memory that she's been repressing is when Sybil's mum tied her legs to a broom, hoisted her upside down in the kitchen from the light, and then gave her an enema and filled her with water. Not only that, but she would also tie Sybil to her piano, legs and hands, and play music to Sybil, and wouldn't let her let go of the water until the song had ended. And so the poor child was passing out through pain or whatever, and the liquid was just flowing over. I mean, what do you even say after that? You know, everything Sybil had been through at a young age at the hands of her mother was absolutely fucking traumatizing. And just like Gary had said, with all the stuff we see nowadays, you know, when you look at horror characters and you go, oh, that's kind of based on that guy from history, and that guy's based on this guy. You know, you see this horrific character and realize that she is real. That's it. She's just fucking real. And like we said, these things go on nowadays, and you just heartbroken. You just shattered inside. And what made this scene even better was Sybil coming to terms with the different personalities, because throughout the film we had seen her reflecting in mirrors and windows, and you'd see the different personalities, the children actually taking on the form of the personality. I loved that shot in the Christmas window where you had the two girls looking in, they're talking, and when it cut back, it was just Sybil. I loved that. But when she's in the park and she starts, you know, Sybil's asleep actually, or hypnotized on Dr. Wilbur's lap, but you see Sally Field stood in the park, and the different personalities start stepping out behind trees. Yeah. And her hugging her is her coming to terms with them and then acknowledging them. Oh, it was fucking beautiful.
But I mean, there is still one more massive emotional outburst from Sybil where she's, you know, explaining everything, all the horrific things that her mother did to her, from sticking flashlights inside her and telling her it's what wicked men will do to her. Yeah. All the list of all these other horrible things. And it's a final culmination of everything. But yeah, at the end of the film, Sybil is restored. All of her personalities are bonded. They've held hands, they're together, and Sybil is normal. And the film sort of ends with Dr. Wilbur explaining that Sybil was her patient for more than 11 years. That they'd collaborated and worked on and healed her, essentially, before she, you know, Sybil went on to become an art teacher.
Yeah.
And lived out her days. And it's like, okay, wow, that's like a success story with
Yeah.
multiple personality disorders. It's like, wow, that happened.
I mean, you have records to say that it can happen as long as the person is able to get the right treatment to deal with it. And what this film made me realize was that, you know, yeah, we've got psychos out there, but they're all products of the environment in which they were created in from a very young age. You know, Sybil could have been a child killer with the amount of torment that she went through. She could have been completely broken. She could have taken on the persona of her mother, like fucking Norman Bates. But she's one of those rare cases where she's actually a nice person, and these other personalities are there to protect her from these horrific things, so she doesn't go completely over the edge.
So before we get into favourite scenes of this film, I just want to say now that new shit has come to light, man.
Really?
This whole story was fake.
Well, I looked up this. I mean, there are reports.
The book was released, I think, in 2011, called Sybil Exposed, and the author of the book investigated the Sybil story and found out that all of the evidence and all of the reports and all of the notes are mismatched, inconclusive, and lies.
Yeah, but I also read into it like, you know, the doctor, like in this film, the doctor was trying to make a name for herself
in the field of
yeah, and came across this patient. Now, we're not I mean, there isn't concrete because all the people involved in the actual real story are dead. I believe Sybil was passed. The person
1998. I think
the person who was portrayed on Sybil was passed away. The doctor has passed away, and the person who exposed the book only waited until after they'd all passed away to obviously make a name for himself by exposing this book. So I was just like, well, what happens if the real person did have traumatic issues that happened as a child, had multiple personalities, but the doctor elaborated it all because she wanted to make a name for herself, and then the book and the film was released and dramatized this whole fucking thing into something so massive that in 2011 somebody had to bring out a book to say, no, it's all fake.
Yeah. I mean, it is you can fall one way or the other, but it does seem that like the evidence that was there was inconclusive. It would appear that the real Sybil was called Shirley Ardell Mason.
Yes.
And she was a highly susceptible person.
Yeah.
And she befriended Dr. Wilbur, knowing Dr. Wilbur was hoping to find a patient with multiple personality disorders.
Yeah.
And through sort of hypnosis and the amount of drugs that Sybil was being given...
that'd do as well.
A lot of these drugs, you know, are... they're kind of hallucinogenic as well.
Yeah.
They cause massive fantasies in order to access these... repressed memories.
Yeah.
And so all of these personalities just started coming forward. And because Dr. Wilbur was excited about this whole case, you know, Sybil, being her friend, was like, I'll just create more for you. At the same time, they'd hired a writer to do the book. And I think after 5 years, the writer of the book, she realized that the story was fake, but she'd already been paid to do it.
Yeah.
So it was like, well, I'm going to finish this book.
Yeah.
And so a lot of people feel like it was in part almost a collaboration between the three of them to make this phenomenon, you know, this cultural revolution.
Well, I mean, we have it all the time, don't we? I mean, when you look at ghost hunters and stuff like that. I mean, like, for example, the Amityville Horror.
Yeah.
You know, we want to sit here and say the Amityville Horror is true, but only one family was mass murdered in that whole place, and then the other family that moved in were kind of shown to be liars. Did it happen? Did it not? I'm not entirely sure. Both of them make really good films.
Yeah.
You know, I could look into the past of loads and loads of films. Look at Moses, Joseph in his Technicolor Dreamcoat. Jesus Christ, you know, those things are not entirely true.
So I think what I have to say is, you know, look into it. It's something else on the side. This film is I watched it as a self-contained film.
Yes, I did as well.
And then it was just interesting looking at the wider reading and the research and everything about multiple personality disorders. You know, it's an interesting field, you know, because, you know, it's a obviously at the time of this film's release, there wasn't a lot of exploration into it. It was either, at this point it'd be like get a lobotomy.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so it was just fascinating.
You can see the people now. You can see them. You can see.
So I got a few favourite sequences in the film. I really love any sequence with Dr. Wilbur and Sybil. I just think their relationship, her sort of mothering Sybil despite being warned against, it's unprofessional to be a mother figure.
Yeah.
But she gets really attached to Sybil. You see that friendship that's there. It comes through in a lot of the sequences. As you mentioned earlier, I liked all of the reflection sequences with Sybil. I liked her internal dialogues between her and her personalities, or the different personalities talking to each other. The photographs when she's discussing the different personalities, the cat nightmare sequence as well.
Yeah.
And some of those flashbacks, they're not favourite scenes, but damn, they're going to stay with you for a little while.
Yeah.
Very memorable moments in the film.
Gary's pretty much listed off most of my favourite scenes there as well. I love that first initial meeting of do you like speaking like a little girl? The way the camera just zooms back and it's Sybil. And she realizes that she's been this other person. I love the moment where Dr. Wilbur goes to the hotel in Harlem and comes across Marcy, Peggy, Sybil all at once, in the room. Dealing through the pictures, seeing Sally Field in these still images and seeing how different she can look with just a shawl over her head or her hair up and some makeup on it. That just really, placed in the fact that these were different people you were dealing with. And so that's how Sally Field was portraying them. I love the mirror shot in the shop window, where you see the different, the two girls talking, and then it cuts back and it's just Sybil on her own. And the meeting in the park, that was really well done as well. The flashbacks of the torment that Sybil went through, like I said, some of them were really good because they were like red herrings. Some of them were really good because I couldn't believe that they actually got away with some of the stuff they were trying to put across on camera. And some of them were just awkward because, like that last fucking... No, actually not even that last shot, but the two shots where they're carrying the child up the rope winch and they're sticking her legs up on the line. That's not a prosthetic model. That's a fucking child. Has that actress got broken personality after making that film? I don't know. I found it really hard to actually explain this film to people. People ask me all the time, what are you reviewing this week? Or what have you just watched? In some films I can say, I've just done this. Oh, what's that about? And you can just laugh and joke about it. This film, I said to somebody, I've just watched Sybil. What's it about? And I didn't know what to say.
Yeah.
Because I knew that if I didn't give them enough, they would ask questions and then I would go too far and they would be like, that's enough, Iain, you don't need to tell me anymore. And I'm like, you fucking asked. You asked me. This film is not for everybody, but I do recommend it to people who love film and really good acting.
Yes.
I wouldn't suggest anybody and everybody should sit down and watch this because there's going to be some bits in it that you really don't like. There's going to be some bits in it that you just think, this film's too old and it's full of shit. But if you're a fan of cinema, if you're a fan of Sally Field, if you're a fan of films that study multiple personality disorders, this is a really, really good film.
Yeah, I second that. It's compelling watching. I didn't want to take a break from watching the film until I had to.
Yeah.
It's the performances are fantastic. Now, almost every actor in here are TV movie actors.
Yeah.
Obviously, Sally Field would go on to much bigger projects, but all of the performances are captivating. You believe they are who they say they are. The camera work wasn't over the top. It was unobtrusive. It kind of sat there when it needed to. The editing and the pacing, it just worked. It gave the actors room to breathe and to perform.
It wasn't like It wasn't like a Hollywood camera because it was like a TV movie.
Well, the director himself had done a lot of TV movies.
Yeah.
I think the only one that I really recognised he had done was Cocoon: The Return.
Yeah, that's why I recognised him as well.
Exactly, yeah. So I was like, I'm not really that aware of this director's other work, but I didn't even see his name come up at the beginning of the film. You know,
Yeah.
I didn't say directed by. I had to go somewhere else and look for it to see who directed this. But yeah, I would recommend it. It's difficult watching, of course, with the child abuse, molestation, but it's also fascinating watching as well. And then, of course, you've got all the extra stuff going on the outside with the book. I also
Yeah.
believe that there was a Jessica Lange movie made about the same story as well.
Oh, right.
So yeah, I mean, it's a story that keeps it. It's still interesting. It's still relevant, especially within the field of multiple personality disorders. It's fascinating.
Yeah.
It's all right, sweetie. It's all right, sweetie.
Thanks for watching Off the Shelf Reviews.